So let's have a little chat about the transits from May 12th to May 18th of 2024. The first one that's happening on May 12th on Sunday is that the North Node is having some micro action, if you will. The North Node has been in Aries since July of 2023 and will be in Aries until January of 2025. So like 18 months, the North Node is going to stay in Aries. And meanwhile, the South Node is also hanging out in Libra doing its thing. And the micro action that I'm referring to is that on Sunday, May 12th, we have the North Node moving from 15 degrees of Aries to 14 degrees of Aries. 15 degrees of Aries was one of those degrees where, because of the natural retrograde motion that the North Node does pretty often, it'll station direct and retrograde several times per month. The North Node and South Node then in Libra has been sitting on 15 degrees Aries and Libra since March 6th. So March 6th through May 12th, over 2 months, we had the North Node at Aries 15 degrees, the South Node at Libra 15 degrees. And I point this out because if you have planets or points at 15 degrees of Aries, or 15 degrees of the fire signs, so Leo and Sag, or 15 degrees of the cardinal signs, so Cancer and Capricorn, in addition to Aries and Libra. If you have anything going on at 15 degrees of those signs, then the North Node and South Node have been making aspects to those planets or points in your chart for over 2 months, and we're moving on. We're finally moving on to North Node at 14 degrees, and it's only going to spend about 3 weeks at 14 degrees. The North Node, it moves very inconsistently across the degrees. Like some of them, like we're seeing with 15 degrees, there's over 2 months of it basically sitting still on that degree point. And then some of them, it's like 4 or 5 days and the North Node will be on to the next degree point. So again, I bring that up so that you can reference within your own chart to see if this 15 degree North Node in Aries is specifically making any touch points with your chart, and to let you know that we're moving on. So all of that. The next one, and really these next three that I'm going to talk about, next four that I'm going to talk about, all take place in Taurus. So this week, this May 12th through the 18th week, has a very Taurus focus, which not only is the sun in Taurus, and this is kind of the home stretch of the sun in Taurus before we'll have the sun move into Gemini the following week. I want to run down Taurus energy real quick as far as some high points to think about. Taurus is the fixed earth sign. So fixed earth, think about a boulder, think about a mountain, think about the physical planet Earth itself. Very tactile, very grounded, very realistic, very practical energy. Taurus is a builder archetype. Taurus understands how to create a harvest in the 3D earth realm. And you think about a harvest can be anything. It could be I actually want to run a combine through a field and take some corn out and sell it or eat it or whatever. A harvest can also be I want to make money. A harvest can also be I want a relationship. A harvest is really an outcome. So Taurus, as the builder, knows how to create outcomes in the 3D world by pulling on the levers of the 3D world. And so I think I go into that. I mean, one, it was inspired and that's what I do here, but I think I go into that so that you can see, are you on the side of really pronounced Taurus energy, of really, really, really focusing on the levers in the physical world? Like, I want to know how to build this thing and I want to see the levers of, how to build it. That is a double-edged sword, because being caught in that specific perspective of being super practical and grounded, number one, you're very familiar with how to pull the physical levers, and some things that get created in that, this is the flip side of that sword, some things that get created in this earth realm, we're not pulling the physical levers. Like, they're universal forces bringing things together. There's energy, there's cooperative components, there's vibrational momentum that are bringing things together, and there is no tangible lever to pull. And so sometimes people with really dominant Taurus energy can almost be too human for their own good, like too grounded and practical. They like the imagination piece, the ability to feel the energetics of the situation, the ability to connect with universal intelligence and power and forces, can be somewhat hindered by over focusing on the energy and what's going on in the earth realm. Like, which is to say, like, really, really, really knowing how and or being concerned with the how. And again, that working out well in some situations and that shooting you in your own foot in other situations. The opposite, like the sister sign of Taurus, is Scorpio, and Scorpio is one of the water signs. And so kind of that balance point to Taurus being really physically focused on the how, Scorpio is very intuitively feeling the how, feeling your way through. Imagine putting a blindfold on to where you're completely without sight, even earmuffs to where you have no more sound. Like, you take away all of your physical senses, can you still go from point A to point B? Someone with Scorpio energy can. Like, essentially, Scorpio energy is like seeing in the dark. And Taurus energy only knows how to operate through those physical senses. And so all of that discussion to kind of lay a groundwork here for the transits we're going to talk about, these 4 transits happening back to back in Taurus this week. So first up, on Monday, May 13th, we have the Sun conjoining Uranus at 23 degrees. So if you remember here, just very recently, we had Jupiter and Uranus making a conjunction at, I think their conjunction was late 21 degrees of Taurus. And that being this like paradigm shifting earthquake in your life, and that's still very much playing out. And this Sun conjoining Uranus is kind of the second wave of that. So Uranus represents our divine authenticity. Keep in mind, there's about 1 trillion facets of every single one of these archetypes. And in a very short video like this, there's no way we could do hours worth of content just on the Uranus archetype. So like, I'm going to boil it down in the essence that wants to come through in this particular context, which is divine authenticity, our radical individuality. Uranus is also the galactic fixer. Uranus is like a lightning bolt that blows apart anything that, like, it makes the changes for us that we have not been able to make for ourselves. And the Sun representing the core of our personality, the core of our identity, the center of our individual being, and then Uranus kind of being this higher place of the divine authenticity that was trying to come into your physical body when you were born. Physical body being even more pronounced because, again, we're in Taurus, that fixed earth energy of the grounded, practical 3D earth realm. So put all that together, and essentially the Sun conjoining Uranus is like a breakthrough of your divine individuality into the center of your being. And that essentially with manifestation in the earth realm, it starts inside of us. Anything that we want to see changing on the outside in our life, the shift is to the shift to make is on the inside. And once we feel differently on the inside, then the outside will automatically update. It'll have no choice because the outside is always a mirror reflection of the inside. So that's why, again, I go back to that Taurus energy wants to look for the levers to pull on the outside, wants to know what action do I take? What step do I take? Where do I go to plant the seed in the ground? What do I put on the seed? It's like, it's all inside. It's an emotional shift that has to happen, and then the external version manifests. And so this Sun-Uranus conjunction is that breakthrough. I got the image just now of like the seed has been planted in the ground, that Uranus work in the soil of that Taurus energy for like 6 years now. Uranus takes 8 years to transit a sign. So the soil has been breaking up for like 6 years. Jupiter, conjoining Uranus a couple weeks ago, planted this seed, and now the seed is cracking open, right? In order for a seed to germinate, in order for it to sprout and like something to come up out of the seed to reach for the light, the seed itself, that shell on the outside, has to break open. And so if that sounds like a traumatic event for the seed, I am guessing you're basically right on track with that interpretation. Uranus has a reputation for shaking things up, and the sun being the center of ourselves, that shakeup could feel very close to home. But that's happening on Monday. So I would expect, this week, things not going according to plan, technology kind of not really being on our side necessarily, which is to say, a lot of times when technology is like freaking out and like my Zoom won't work or my internet blew out or whatever, it's like, again, in Taurus, we get so attached to the plan and our own personal version of what needs to happen that we lose track of the divine intelligence coming through, or what our intuition is telling us would be the right step forward. So plans being disrupted early this week, I think, is totally fair. Next, on Wednesday, May 15th, we have Mercury entering Taurus. So Mercury has been hanging out in Aries again for like 2.5 months because it did its retrograde. Mercury got almost all the way to the end of Aries, and then it stationed retrograde. It went back to about the halfway point of Aries, stationed direct, and then it moved back over that second half of Aries again. All of that taking about 8 or 9 weeks. To make that transit of Mercury through Aries, interacting with the North Node, interacting with Chiron multiple times. Mercury has had its shit shaken up. Mercury being the messenger planet, Mercury also being the mind, the intellect, our thinking, our thoughts, how we perceive the world, how we take in information, and how we make sense of that information, all there in the realm of Mercury. Aries, where we've been for the last 2.5 months, is very impulsive. It's very hot. It's very quick. Taurus, like I've been describing, is very methodical, very practical. So how I would kind of smush all that together is that Mercury has had some really profound insights and downloads and ideas that, whether they're practical or not, really didn't matter, right? Like that energy, that hot, quick fire energy was like, great, taking it and running with it. And then we have Mercury entering Taurus, and there's like these roots that are going to grow out of those ideas and root down into the physical, practical, tangible realm of our life. Mercury in Taurus, again, a builder, very grounded, very concerned with the how. How am I going to take this idea from idea and turn it into a thing? And all I can say there is, don't let the Taurus energy fool you that like the way to manifest a thing in the physical is to go get in the physical and put your hands in the clay. Sometimes that is the step that's required. Often there is a lot of intuitive, energetic, emotional work that has to happen on the inside in order to present the opportunity to actually get your physical hands in the physical clay. So Mercury enters Taurus on Wednesday, May 15th, and Mercury will be in Taurus for a much shorter period of time when it's not doing its station retrograde slowdown. Mercury can move through a sign in as little as like 2.5 to 3 weeks. So I think we're like 3 weeks in Taurus Mercury will spend. And then on Saturday, on May 18th, we have 2 more transits happening in Taurus, both on the same day, both on Saturday, and very, very interesting alignment because early in the week, I mentioned on Monday, we have the Sun conjoining Uranus at 23 degrees. The Sun then moves forward. The Sun moves about 1 degree a day. So the Sun is going to move forward, and by the end of the week on Saturday, the Sun has made it to Jupiter at 28 degrees. So the Sun is conjoining Jupiter at 28 degrees. Same day, Venus has made it to Uranus at 23 degrees. So we have both of these alignments happening on the same day. So real quick, I'm going to talk about Venus and Jupiter, the 2 archetypes we haven't touched on yet, and then I'll kind of put all of that together. And so Venus is actually the ruler of Taurus. And, same as the Sun, Venus is going to conjoin Uranus on Saturday, May 18th, and then we'll go on to conjoin Jupiter later. So that'll be coming later. And Venus as the ruler of Taurus, Venus, for me, the first word I always think of is values. And multiple roots grow off of that word for me because number one, it is our value system. You think about what is the most valuable thing to you? It's different for everybody. Okay. And I'll put my values exercise that I made in the description box. If you want to play with that, it would be a really good time to do that because most likely Venus conjoining Uranus, we're going to see a shakeup Uranus in our values, Venus. The other facet of values that comes through is, and this is kind of tied to our value system, but a slightly different angle on that same concept is when we value something really highly, we will invest our resources into it. And so on the flip side, when we don't value something really highly, we won't invest our resources into it. And so this is where self-worth wants to enter the conversation because you think self-worth, what is your self-worth? What is the worth of yourself? What is the value of yourself? And if you will value yourself really highly, or if you do value yourself really highly, you will naturally be inclined to invest your resources into yourself. Resources being your time, your money, and your most valuable resource of all. Any guesses on what it is? It's not your time and your money. It's your attention. Okay. What you pay attention to, the way you spend your attention, you pay attention, right? What we pay attention to appreciates. What you pay attention to gets bigger, which is what appreciate means, interest, it appreciates. So if you value yourself very highly, you will invest your resources, your time, money, and attention into yourself. And if you value yourself really small, really little, you don't see the worth in yourself, then you will not see fit to spend money on yourself, to spend time on yourself, to spend attention on yourself. It will feel like it's not enough. I should be doing something better with these resources. And it's that, when somebody tells me, well, I can't afford it, it's we can all afford anything we want. You just can't have everything. And that's true for every single person. I don't care how much money you have, how much time you have, how much attention you have. That's where our value system comes into play. It tells us what's worth spending your limited resources on. And when somebody says, I can't afford it, all you're saying is that I don't value it enough to spend that much on it. And that's no problem. But all of this energy in Taurus, the Sun conjoining Jupiter, the Venus conjoining Uranus, all of that could definitely show us like a mirror reflection, like how much do you value yourself? Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit more to this with Jupiter's archetype. Jupiter is the great benefic. Benefic meaning bringer of good things. It's known for expansion. It's your path to abundance. It's, Jupiter generally is like seen as bringing blessings. Okay. And like, who doesn't want a blessing? The thing about it is that Jupiter can sometimes bring blessings in disguise. So like, I'll put that in here as far as like next weekend when this is happening on May 18th. Like whatever's happening, it's a blessing. Will it look like a blessing on Saturday, May 18th and the couple days after that? Maybe, maybe not. Does the fact that it doesn't look like a blessing, does that mean it's not a blessing? Definitely not. Okay. It's still a blessing, even if it looks like a tragedy, even if it looks like a loss. It is a blessing. And I have a personal experience from this where, I don't think it's even needed to get into the whole story of it, but like one of the hardest losses that I've ever gone through connected me to a new person who has brought so much into my life, so much expansion, so much good feeling conversation, which are things that I value a lot. I value expansion, I value conversation. So like the abundance of meeting this new person, this person only entered my life because this thing left. And so it's like, was that a blessing? I mean, yes, it was. In the moment that it happened, did it feel like a blessing? Hell no. Was it? Yes. So it's about that bigger picture, that expanded viewpoint. Jupiter is also the great expander. It makes things bigger. And you think about Jupiter as a planet, it is the biggest planet in our solar system, and it's this giant gassy planet that like expanded and expanded and expanded. It's huge. It's so huge and expands. And then it stopped expanding. Okay. Jupiter doesn't expand things forever for no reason. Okay. That's really not the point of Jupiter. Jupiter wants you to be as big as you meant to be. And especially the sun conjoining Jupiter, the sun being the center of ourself, Jupiter being the great expander, the path to abundance. I mean, I see this as an expansion of who you know yourself to be, your identity. And meanwhile, we have Venus conjoining Uranus on that same day, Venus being our values, potentially our self-worth, what we value, how we value it, how we value ourselves, all of that. Conjoining Uranus, the galactic fixer, our divine authenticity, our radical individuality. How much do you value your authenticity? If you're watching this channel, probably a lot, right? Probably not a misaligned guess. You're watching a channel called Owning Authenticity. So all of that happening on the same day, those four archetypes coming together, Sun, Jupiter, Venus, Uranus, like there is a self-worth expansion that is going to rock your world. That's the easiest way I can say it, the most boiled down way I can say it. There is a self-worth expansion that is going to rock your world. Because you think about like, we create our own reality, and a lot of people are living a lot of things that they're like, I didn't create that. I don't even want that thing. And it's like, well, okay, so here's the question is like, if you don't want it, then why are you putting up with it? And that sounds really harsh and it doesn't have any sugar on it. And so like, take it or don't take it. But like, we get what we tolerate and we get what we will allow to continue. And so much of the things that we tolerate are because of the level of self-worth that we have, or the level of how we value the quality of our own life, of our own experience, the level to which we believe we deserve to have a pleasurable, enjoyable ride through this life. If you don't believe that, the world's not going to just give it to you. And if you do believe that, that means that you need to stop tolerating the things that aren't that. right? Committing to a path of self-worth and worthiness and knowing you're good and knowing your value means saying no to anything and everything that is not reflecting that to you. You disrespect me, no. I don't have to be disrespected, right? Being disrespected is an acceptance of it. And why would you accept that? If you don't deserve it, then don't accept it, right? Put a stop to it. That's what boundaries are for. And honestly, that's where, I'll tie all of this together and close it up here as far as like this happening in the sign of Taurus is actually really good because Taurus knows about boundaries. Taurus knows about like the physical levers that have to be in place in order to make things happen. And so if someone is giving you treatment that you don't deserve, that you don't want to tolerate, then there needs to be a boundary right there. And whose job is it to have that boundary? It's yours, right? Boundaries aren't about making other people be different. They're about what we are willing to tolerate and what we're not willing to tolerate. So that is my report for this week's transits. And I also want to close off here by announcing that enrollment is open in my next 4-week mini program, The Mind Machine. We are kicking off with our first Zoom session on May 24th. The 4-week mini program includes 4 Zoom sessions. It also comes with a daily dose of yumminess straight to your inbox that has a journal prompt, a video recommendation, and a dance song that you can dance to if you like. And the Mind Machine is really focused on the most... like I said, like the most valuable resource you have is your attention. And where's your attention? It's in your mind, right? It's in your beliefs. It's in your thoughts. And the Mind Machine is about becoming aware of how to purposefully use the most powerful tool you will ever possess, your mind, right? Like before we know how to use it, the mind has power over us. And when we learn how to use it, we can point our mind to create anything and everything that we want our life to be. It's very simple, actually, to make your life exactly what you want to be. You just have to be willing to face all the gunk that's clogging up your brain right now, that's clogging up your mind right now. And what is that gunk? Beliefs. Beliefs that things are true that don't serve you. Right? Like if I want something and then I have a belief that I can't have it, how much action am I going to invest? How much time and attention and money and resources and all my resources, how much am I going to invest in pursuing that thing that I believe I can't have? Nothing. Okay. So having the thing that you want is about working out that belief. And is there a better belief? Because a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. It's a thought that you think is true. And we think it's true because we have evidence to support it, but multiple things can be true at the same time. Even opposite things can be true at the same time. So we get to believe whatever we want. And if you want something, the trick to having it is about making your belief match up with what it is that you want. And so in the Mind Machine, we're going to do many things, but one of the most powerful, valuable concepts we're going to work with is how to recognize the limiting belief in real time and how to, I was going to say uninstall it, but you really can't stop thinking a thought. You can only think a different thought, right? Like we don't necessarily uninstall the limiting belief. We reprogram that belief into something that does support our path to get to what we want. So if you would like more information, there are more details. If you click on the standard ticket link, that'll take you to the details for the standard ticket. If you click on the VIP ticket link, you probably guessed it, you're very smart, takes you to the details about the VIP ticket. And the VIP, long story short, is a 45-minute after party where I record a 60-minute session with you guys first, and that's the standard ticket. Everybody gets access to that first hour, and the recording is of that first hour. And then the VIP after party, we turn off the recording and then it's an open conversation, processing, Q&A, further digesting whatever it was that the lesson was. Like, for example, in the session we had just yesterday, I did a guided meditation, and in VIP, we talked a lot about like what came up during the guided meditation and kind of like asking more questions to unpack that and further integrate whatever realizations everybody had. So the VIP is a little bit different every time, but it takes the session even deeper into integration and implementation. So that is happening May 24th through June 20th. All of the details are on those links. However, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to email me at owningauthenticity@gmail.com. Would be more than happy to chat with you and answer any questions that you have. Until next time, I do hope that you will take really good care of the precious one that you are, and so will I.